Okay, so I posted this as a topic on the agenda. Will sideloading Android apps be possible in the future? So this is something that's been kicking around for the last couple of months now. Really ever since Google announced in September, I think, that they would really like all developers developing Android apps to register with Play Console. So just click on this link here, which annoyingly comes up in the wrong place. Bear with me. Still didn't work. There we go. That's what I wanted. Yeah, so there's this thing here, elevating Android security to keep it open and safe. So the essence of this is that there's a lot of malware out there. A lot of apps do bad things. But hey, Google, we have all kinds of things at Play Store which will eliminate malware. So their big idea then is if everybody has to publish things, well, if everybody has to certify through Play Store, not necessarily publish through Play Store, but they must use signing keys that are have been verified by Google, then you'll need to do that in order to install apps on any certified Android device. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here which I'm not going to go into about how to do that. So that's their pitch. Essentially, we're trying to make the world into a safer place, which has got to be a good thing, of course. And we're doing that by forcing everybody to go through Google, and Google will control who can write apps. That is the bad thing. So go back to where I was, which I've lost. There it is. So Google have done a couple of blog posts about this. Answer your top questions about Android developer verification. I'm not going to click on that link right now. But essentially they are saying that, hey, this is, they're going through all the various reasons why this is a good idea. And then early access now as we continue to build with your feedback. Essentially, this is the most recent blog from Google. And here they're making a couple of concessions, perhaps, to make it easier for people to fit into this new ecosystem as they imagine it. But then there is a number of responses, particularly from the F-Droid people. And I don't know if Neil is on the line from F-Droid. If so, could you say something? Maybe not. Well, okay. So this affects F-Droid. F-Droid, if you're not familiar, F-Droid is an open source app store. Currently, as of today, you install F-Droid. I think you have to actually install it separately. I don't think it's on Play Store. Could be wrong there. So you install that as a new app store, and then you can use that to install open source apps. The developer registration requirement makes it very difficult for F-Droid to exist. Unless, of course, all the developers register with Play Store, which kind of eliminates the reason for F-Droid to exist in the first place. So the F-Droid people in particular are not very keen about this, and we in general are not keen about this, we in the community, because it limits the abilities of, or your rights as to what you can do with your hardware. So put it like this. I bought a phone. I bought the phone with my own money. It's an Android phone. It's a certified Android phone because I bought it from a shop and it's running stock Android supplied by Google. So it's got GMS installed. It runs all the apps that I want. I'm happy. But then I write an app just to try something out, or maybe it's an app that is for a small community of people. I don't particularly want to go through all the hassle of publishing it on Play Store. I just want to keep it for me and my friends. And this happens a lot. It could be for something we're working on together. It could be some little hardware project that I'm working on that I'm just tinkering with. I don't really want to go through the whole Play Store registration. So up to now, I could just write an app, an APK. I can say to people, hey, install my app. It will do this, this, and this. It will make your Raspberry Pi into a robot or whatever. Now I can't do that. I have to go through Play Store. Or I have to go through the Play Store console and I have to register. This is a real pain. It's going to cost me some money. It doesn't say exactly how much, but there will be a charge, it says. And I have to give all kinds of ID. And also it gives control to Google over whether I can do my work, whether I can publish my app or not. If for some reason Google decides they don't like my app, they can simply revoke my sign-in key and my app stops working. So I'm giving control of the thing that I've developed. I'm giving that to Google. And Google, of course, have their own commercial interests here. If I write an app which is seriously impacting their apps in some way, by, for example, blocking advertising, they're not very keen on that, or simply doing something which interferes with the way Google likes things to do, they can at any point revoke my key and then my app stops working. So there are many reasons why this is a bad idea. So there is a thing here also called Keep Android Open, which is an open letter to Google, sponsored, of course, actually by the F-Droid people, which is kind of a lobby to encourage people to protest against this and to keep Android open. So that's the essence of it. I'm going to stop the sharing at that point. So, yeah. What do you think? Does anybody have any questions? Oh, Neil's here, right. Okay, Michael Zimmerman. You're good to go. Michael, you can just talk. Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, gotcha.
Yeah, it didn't work the last 20 seconds. So, what I find interesting is that why their intentions seem to be nice to have like more security. Do you really think that they actually achieve that? Because from what I've seen, this might actually make security worse than without that whole concept. If people suddenly have to start like sideloading via USB, and then they're not always up to date because they don't do that as often as F-Droid would do that automatically. And then also in their own webpage, they say, yeah, we are only identifying the identity of the developer and not really the contents of the app. So I kind of fail to see how that improves anything. So am I missing anything there, or is that actually the case?
Yeah, so there are some suspicions, shall we say, that I've heard voiced, that the reason Google want to do this is not only for security. So there is a view that says that, hey, Google are because of the EA Sports thing, the games company, they've now been forced to allow alternative app stores to be installed from Play Store. And so that means that they lose a little bit of control over the app ecosystem. So there is a feeling that maybe what Google is trying to do here is to claw back or retain control of the app ecosystem. And also this is my own personal view, which you may not agree with. One of the things Google always does is it tries to copy what Apple does. So if you look at the way the Apple ecosystem does, there are no app stores apart from App Store. And I think Google would quite like to do what Apple does, because that's what they always do. So the feeling is, and I think I agree with this, that Google are doing this not primarily for security, but primarily to retain control. Okay, so Marcus, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to add a little bit about regarding Google's timing for this, it is at least suspicious the timing, the political timing for this. If you take into account the European Union regulations, in particular the DSA, which Apple is fighting in court right now regarding the European rules that make Apple need to allow um, other stores other than their own. And so this, in a way, is also, even if it's not their intention, with this, Google is also saying that they are against DSA. And if you join that to the whole political climate that's going on and the way that US in general is pushing against several European pro-consumer regulations like the DSA, the AI Act, and so on, there is, I mean, at least there is a feeling that there's more to this than just the security part of things. There is a political scenario that we might need to take into account.
Absolutely, that's I'm totally up with that, and I think Google, if they were sincere about this, it would be nice if they were to set up a totally independent mechanism for verifying developers, and to set up a kind of a little bit like we have with certificate authorities for SSL. Yeah, we should have multiple certificate authorities for Android developers if that's turns out to be a good idea. Yuning, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
I think if they trying to avoid spamware, and then with the current device, it's very easy to do. Basically, is that if I bought the device, I sign up with my my identity or whatever, and then the device will have a keychain, a certificate chain, and then people can use that and to sign their own app and run on their own phone. It doesn't body need uh, Google to verify I'm a good guy or bad guy, right? And
Yeah,
and and that's very easy to do.
I mean, I'm that's
And
kind of where we are at the moment. That's kind of how it works.
yeah, and I think just need enough people showing them in Europe. In America, you can do nothing with Google, but in Europe, we just need new, F-Droid people. We sign up enough letters, especially in UK, we get 10,000 people
Mhm.
to do something about it, and we need to keep an alternative to. Otherwise, I spend $1,000 on a phone. I can't even buy my own app for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And alternative is that, yeah, wait for risk five. We fork everything ourselves using F-Droid, our app store. So be it. And
Yeah.
then, and we might be able to successful. The example is VLC. VLC have 1 million download. Right? If we decide to go in that way, I think F-Droid might be successful. But we do it properly. We do it that we do achieve and safe and secure for the good people, and we allow good people to do their own thing without us verify they are good people.
I totally agree. We would need to educate a lot of people as to what are the dangers of the current system and how everything is, all power is being concentrated into the west coast of America with 6 or 7 companies. We're in quite a dangerous place, I think.
Yep, I think, and I would think now the trend on European on more open source, but it's double-edged sword. Now the European government is scared of American without the weapons,
That's maybe true.
without AI weapons, without blah 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 blah, and I don't know how long any of the government can stay up to say that. But I think from individual side, I don't care. We don't need to care about what government does. If everybody we have enough body to flock onto F-Droid, right?
That's definitely what we should do.
Yeah.
Neil, can I bring you in here? Neil?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, got you. Yep.
Is a particular question you'd like me to answer?
Well, I just wanted your kind of reaction. So Neil, you work for F-Droid, at least.
So nobody works for F-Droid.
Well,
We're
okay,
all
but
volunteers
you
doing that. I'm a member of the F-Droid board.
okay? Thanks.
So I'm one of a number of people who's been looking at this particular issue. I think a few comments perhaps based on the points raised so far.
Great.
One is that F-Droid is not a project for power users. I know there's a perception of that, but F-Droid's mission is to offer free, in sort of capital F, free and open source, free software that's privacy preserving to everyday people to use in their everyday life. So we're not aimed at a typical, perhaps Linux geek audience who would be happy to use ADB sideloading being the common term, installing software via ADB. It is aimed far more at the mass market. And if Google's proposal goes ahead, as is currently proposed, F-Droid is effectively dead in the water. Because even if it is only limited to Google verified, or certain Google approved devices, that makes up so much of the Android ecosystem that F-Droid would be left with such a limited base, it's unlikely to be worth continuing to operate it. So as F-Droid, we've spoken with Google, and we've also spoken with numerous interested third parties, including regulators, policymakers, government officials from around the world to try and push back on this. As you say, Google's stated objective is to deal with scams which are distributed as APKs, so not via the Play Store, but distributed separately, and apparently that is quite prolific in some markets. I think it's fair to say that we are somewhat skeptical that if that is, and Google asserts that they are under quite a lot of regulatory pressure to deal with this, if that is indeed the case, their solution just happens to be a solution which is helpful to Google's interests more broadly. It's not necessarily, I think, in the view of F-Droid, the necessary or proportionate solution to what it's doing. Google does seem to have backtracked ever so slightly in its most recent blog post. It talks language that I personally don't agree with about power users and how power users should be able to do it. No, everyone should have the right to be able to install the software of their choice from the developer of their choice on their hardware. And that shouldn't require paying Google, giving government ID to Google, and agreeing to Google's terms. So there has been some discussion about alternative notaries. I think to your point, Chris, around vendors of TLS certificates, there could be multiple trusted vendors.
Okay.
There could be, but I think it's highly unlikely that F-Droid as a project would want to sign up to Google's terms to be part of that. F-Droid is a competitor of Google, and certainly shouldn't be signing up to Google's terms or agreeing anything with Google to be able to exist and operate as a competitor. That seems fundamentally anti-competitive and anti-consumer. So we will continue to push back on this. We don't think it's necessary or proportionate. We certainly don't think that Google's thought through all the angles on this. It's a major part of what F-Droid's doing at the moment, because if we cannot deal with this, if we can't get the way to compete fairly and in a privacy-preserving manner for developers, F-Droid is pretty much dead in the water.
What do you think are the chances or likelihood of persuading Google to change course? Because I know there's a lot, as you say, you've been speaking with regulators across various countries and regions, and the Keep Android Open initiative encourages people to contact those regulators and to write to your representative to persuade them not to do this. How do you think that's going?
If you ask me what the chances are of success, I would say greater than zero. I wouldn't think they're massively high. And part of the challenge is whenever someone invokes the security argument. You look at the Digital Services Act and immediately invoke a security-based argument, and some policymakers will go, "Oh, well, we can't do anything to impact the security of the platform." The angle that this is to protect consumers from scams is quite a powerful lobbying angle as well. Nobody wants consumers to be scammed. So I would not be confident about wholesale getting rid of this. I'm not convinced that that is realistic. I would hope that there is a way to enable F-Droid to continue to exist to serve the goal of giving people control over their own devices, and to enable developers to distribute their software without having to sort of kowtow to Google to do so. Quite what that looks like and where we might shift, that's certainly open for discussion.
Absolutely, and I myself feel very strongly about this. I make the comparison that when I buy a PC or a laptop, this is an open ecosystem, has been ever since PCs were invented pretty much. And I would be appalled if I had to ask permission from Microsoft, for example, before I can install an application on my PC. That would be just crazy. And so I totally get your point that it should be the same with mobile phones and other devices. I've paid a lot of money for this mobile phone, this piece of hardware. I feel that I own it, and yet it turns out I don't really own it. Kind of Google owns it more than I do in many ways, and that disappoints me, shall we say.
And there's a long-standing discussion there, isn't there, between at what point have you bought an appliance as opposed to a general computing device?
Yes.
And I think you use a PC as an example. I think if one buys into the Mac OS ecosystem, there is more tendency to say, actually, it may be quite difficult to install software that has not been signed by Apple. Not impossible, as I understand it, but there are some more scare screens to go through to say, yes, I really do want to do this. I imagine that is where we may end up with Google for Android. One can install software from developers who haven't verified with Google, but how off-putting will it be to your average non-geek user, depending on the scare screens that are written to do that?
And I think they're already fairly scary, because I think if you click on the install from unknown sources or whatever the thing is called, it gives you all kinds of warnings about scams. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I like your note of optimism, even if it's a little bit qualified. But I would like to think that we can come to some kind of solution or agreement here.
And it must be qualified because despite all the good work we're doing as F-Droid, F-Droid is a very small group of volunteers doing this part-time up against one of the most powerful organizations in the world at the moment, certainly with lobbying power and lawyers, and seemingly some regulatory pressure to do something about scams on Android. But I am optimistic that F-Droid will continue to have a future, and that those of us who choose to use Android will be able to install the software that we want. And I know you're interested in AOSP more broadly, but I think there is a concern that this is part of a general trend towards impacting, if not impeding, AOSP and consumer choice of hardware. But yeah, I am hopeful, but I don't underestimate the challenge we have here.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for that. That's great.